Hello, Shelley Ramus, Volunteer Specialist with the Iowa 4-H Youth Development Program. This week's volunteer development video is part 2 in our two-part series that we began last week. Last week we talked to you about helping your volunteers prepare their youth for the fair. And this week we are going to continue that conversation and go into part 2 with our guest speaker, Mitch Hoyer. So Mitch, can you talk to us a little bit about what we'll cover this week?
Well, sure, Shelley. I'd be glad to. Last week, our viewers will remember that we talked a little bit about how 4-H exhibits are really an outgrowth of their project work and the purpose of exhibits and an opportunity for members to share their learning. Well, we're going to pick up this week under the assumption that now members have decided what they want to make for a fair exhibit to take to the fair to show just what it is that they've learned. And so we're really going to focus on how you as a volunteer can get started helping your members prepare for the exhibit conference judging experience.
All right, so let's go right into that information.
I think it's always good to get started by helping our 4-H members work through the 3 questions that we talked about last week. There are 3 basic questions that need to be answered for all 4-H fair exhibits. And those questions are, what did you plan to learn or do? What steps did you take to learn or do this? And what were the most important things that you learned? These questions are really important because they help set the context for exhibit evaluation. They also help the exhibit judge understand what the 4-H member learned in their project work and why they chose to make this exhibit to share what they learned. And really by asking the question, what was learned and what were the most important things, that really helps youth process and reflect on their project learning, and that's a critical part of the experiential learning model.
So Mitch, can you tell me more about how to respond to these questions? Do answers from the youth need to be written? And how much detail should be provided?
Shelley, those are really great questions. I often say enough information so that the judge can understand in a very short period of time. At most county fairs, judges only have 7 to 10 minutes to talk with the 4-H members, so that judge really needs to be able to get the main points of the exhibit and the key concepts very quickly. So it's very fine for a 4-H member to provide lots of detail, and our members love to share, but sometimes, and especially for older members, that exhibit itself might be a lengthy report. So one thing that helps all 4-H members is to prepare a summary response of the information of those questions at the beginning. Make it very easy for the judge to find the important information about the exhibit. Do answers need to be written? Well, most county fairs require at least a summary response in writing for the exhibit conference judging experience, although a few counties have the members only explain verbally to the judge. Another option is for the member to prepare an audio or videotape of that information as an alternative to writing questions out. And while we're talking about writing responses out, I don't really care if those answers are computer generated and they're very neatly printed. If they're handwritten by the member, they could be hand printed by a member. And I don't care if it's in purple ink or red ink or black ink or some combination, because it's not about the format, it's about the information contained in the response to the questions that's important. I would ask our volunteers and staff members to remember, though, that any exhibit selected for the Iowa State Fair will need a written or at least an audio version of those responses, because we don't conference judge at the Iowa State Fair. The other piece of advice I have on that is don't overcomplicate this, especially for our new and younger 4-H members. This slide really summarizes what we just talked about. Longer is not better, yet we do want some key details of the exhibit to show the learning that is to be shared. And finally, one thing we didn't talk about before is be sure the member has some discussion about how the exhibit truly relates to their 4-H project work and what they've been working on through the year. Sometimes an exhibit may be done as part of a school experience as well. So what's the 4-H aspect to that exhibit work?
So Mitch, how else can volunteers help youth prepare for the conference judging?
I think a key thing is to practice. Hold a mock judging session at a club meeting. Have your older members work with the younger ones to prepare and demonstrate the conference judging process. Ask a local judge to come to a 4-H meeting to help your 4-H members prepare. Ask them questions that the judge is likely to ask. How did you decide to? Why did you choose to? Tell me about. What if you had changed? Asking these questions helps the young people better prepare their exhibit and really helps them prepare for the conference judging process. Also, make sure that your members know about any special exhibit requirements, perhaps food safety rules. Are there any unique rules with that particular exhibit, such as size of photographs, a limit on number of exhibits, any other unique county rules?
Those are all really helpful suggestions, Mitch. Would you have any other hints?
I think the other things that I would mention are to give extra attention to our new members and new 4-H families. Make sure they understand what's going to happen on Judging Day, that they know where to be when. A really good tip I learned from some other staff and volunteers is to assign your new members a special helper for the day. Maybe that's one of the older members in your club or group. Maybe it's another parent. Maybe it's a friend of the 4-H program, someone who can help those new members and families navigate the process of Judging Day. Ribbons come and go, although many of them members keep around as keepsakes, and once in a while they even get made into a ribbon dress or a ribbon quilt or a ribbon wall hanging. But what we're really about is not blue ribbon birdhouses. We're about growing blue ribbon kids.